Right, guys. I'd just like to tell a little story or account of something that happened to me about 3 or 4 weeks ago, something like that. And it kind of bothered me in a way, not because of the figures involved, but because of the uh, ethics involved and the methods. So anyway, I'll explain it in euros because people don't get the levs, or I'd have to say it twice or convert it as I was telling the story. So I'll just tell it in euros because everyone sort of understands euros. Anyway, so there's this guy who kind of, uh, who comes round to the house once a week when he's here. He was coming back from the UK. So there won't be any names or anything mentioned, but I hope this guy watches this one day. He might do and he might not. Anyway, he was coming back from the UK, so he rang me up from the UK and said, Well, will you do an airport transfer from Sofia to where we live? And I said, and he said, I'd rather give you the money because this other guy is I'm getting ripped off or something along those lines. And I think he even may have mentioned the price then. I think he did. I'm not sure. I can't remember, but I know what the other guy was charging, so maybe he did mention it. Or he'd mentioned it when he was here last time. I don't know. Anyway, so I said, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll do that. And the flight was at a decent time. It was like midday-ish. Well, just after midday. So you go in there while it's light, not in the middle of the night, anything like that. So I thought, yeah, okay, because I had something to do actually, or something that I could do while I was there, just near the airport. Because I get meat from Sofia, so I joined the metro, which is Costco. Anyway, that's an aside. So stick to the story, right? So Sofia, I'm back to here now. I've got no chance of taking someone each way, and nor is like a taxi on a normal day from here. It's just the times and that the chances of it happening are just very slim. So it's going to involve going there, coming back, and on that day there was lots and lots of tunnels closed in there, and we were diverted miles and miles around. So it's a good job I left early. So this entails now a whole day basically. I set off at 9 a.m. and then I got back at 4:30 because the flight wasn't delayed, but they were delayed getting off the plane for about 45 minutes, an hour. I can't remember, but it was a delay. So I've got to wait for that. I've got to be involved with, hanging about, and which is fair enough. I mean, that's going to happen on any airport runs and stuff like that. And don't forget, this is door to door. And this guy had asked me to do it, and I said, yeah, okay. So it gets there, and what it is, you wait on the periphery of the airport, and then he'll ring up. And so picked him up, and he, full of negative stories as usual from the UK, and I was thinking, yeah, okay, let's get you home type of thing, and so that they've, yeah, going back to the figures involved now, it's 350 kilometres. So that's going to cost me, well, stick in euros, €40 in petrol, benzene. At the time, the benzene was such and such a price, and that's what it cost. And especially on that day, because they sent us miles around these mountains, and it's a good job to set off early. You know, bit of contingency, so you make sure you're there. You know, because there's nothing worse if you're flying somewhere and you land and there's nobody there. You know, so anyway, so this other guy was going to charge this guy 140 lev, which is 70 €70, right? So bear that in mind, which that leaves him €30 for the whole day. That's what he's going to make. And bear in mind, you know, I was supplying my car at my risk and all the rest of it, and you know, and wear and tear on the car, you name it. But I wasn't doing it for that reason, right? But this guy turned it into that reason because of the following actions, right? Now, and other people, if you're thinking about doing things like this to people like me, you're only going to ever do it once. And that's what he found out. That's it. But you know, you get one chance, and that's now expired, gone. It's not 3 strikes and you're out. It's one. In this case, anyway. And there was another few things as well, which minor. But this annoyed me. And I'll tell you why it annoyed me, because we got back to his doorstep, where that was 350 kilometres further down the line, and waiting around and shifting around the airport, because the police move you on, that kind of thing. You know. So he gets back, and he's got the money ready, rolled up. So he planned this right from back in the UK. He decided what he was going to, and he had the amounts in a pocket ready. And I thought that was a bit odd, you know. Rather than say, how much you reckon, and blah blah blah, which I should have done before actually. And then there would have been no chance of like getting disappointed, which I was, on ethically, or morally, whatever you want to call it. So he had this money ready, and he said, right, let's sort out the money. Boom, there you go. It's 120, which is €60. €60, right? So I'd spent €40 on petrol, and like, you know, you get a cup of coffee or whatever, you know, you don't have to, but like, you generally need something through it during the day, although you've got to eat anyway. You're going to be paying in a petrol station or whatever, or maybe a sandwich, unless you take one with you and all that, you know, but like generally you wouldn't. So it adds to the cost, but you know, you have got to eat anyway. And so that was that. And he said, right, here's the money. Boom. And he actually said, and I paid you less than the other guy. That's what the first thing he said. He said, there's 120 and I paid you less than the other guy, because he was ripping me off. Which means you're not going to rip me off or whatever. I don't know what that really meant. because I was just doing it as not for the money. I don't need the money, and I don't need the work, and I don't need the hassle of driving. Driving's it's not the especially that amount in a day is it's okay for me because I don't mind driving, but it's not like just round the corner. Give us a lift down to the shops, 350 kilometres. So I spend 40 on benzene, petrol, right? And then there's wear and tear on the car, so you can probably add €5 for that, just alone to put 350 kilometres plus the risk and plus the work involved. So he's going to give me €60. That's what he gave me. He said, "There's the money." Bang. It wasn't like there was no conversation. He said, "There's the money, and by the way, I paid you less than the other guy because he was ripping me off," which means you're not going to rip me off, or whatever it meant. I don't know, but it just blew me away. So as he gave me the money, he said, "There it is, 120, which is 60. So I'm left with €20 for the day. Now I could have spent €6 on a sandwich and a cup of coffee, but expenses. They would be my expenses for going there, buying food out in a petrol station or whatever. Though you could argue it could take a sandwich, I mean, people do that, but just for a one-off. Anyway, and that's what it did actually. And if there's any delays on the flight and that, so I thought straight away, this is sharp practice. This is not the way people who are supposed to be friends carry on. I don't think so anyway. You either do it for nothing, or if there's any money involved, it's what you want or something. But anyway, it bothered me. Maybe it shouldn't have done, but it did. It bothered me. And I thought I was being had off because I did the sums, and this person obviously hasn't done the sums or just thinks it's it's just one way. It's not. It's both ways. I've got to go get there, come back, as would anyone who's doing an airport transfer, unless you've got two clients. And I'm not running a business, so where am I going to get two clients to synchronise in the same drop-off and pick-up? Just not going to happen. So this person knows all this, or should do, and should think. And I think the other guy was charging either 140, which was €70, or 80. I'm not sure. So whichever one it was, it should have been 160, because then he ends up with €40 for a day's work, which is more or less the going rate now in Bulgaria. For one, if you get a one-off, especially supplying a car, or a delivery vehicle or something like that. €40. It's fair, and that's what he would have been paying this other guy who he was accusing of having him off. Right, and I've heard lots of other things that he pays people, like a philanthropist or whatever you call him. And there was a guy coming, just arboured a tree. I think you call him an arborist. And this tree, and that was, I think, over 200 lev, just for the day's work, just chopping up a bit of tree. Anyway, and various other things. So I'm thinking, I'm not comfortable with this. I don't like this. This is the first and the last. That's it. So anyway, I couldn't really get over it. So a couple of weeks went by, and I've kind of made it so it doesn't come back anymore. It doesn't come round anymore. So if you're watching to this guy, that's the real reason. Not the other reason, which was bad enough anyway. Because it wasn't my area wasn't keeping up with his standards. He said something like that. I can't really know what's going on through people's heads. Something like that. Something like that. About standards, and I'm not sure. He never answered. I said, where did the standards come in? Anyway, that's for me. That's it. So that cost probably 20 lev for the friendship. 20 lev, which is about £8. £8, and I'll only ever get out ad off once from any particular person. And a few people have tried things like that in the past, and this one, like, it was a sting. It was like boom, and at the time I was like, actually, I missed a bit out there. I gave him some money back, as if to say, you need it more than me, obviously, which he doesn't. But like to the ethics involved. So I gave him 20 lev back. So I ended up with 10. What was it? 20 lev. I ended up with €10 for all day. But I gave him back. I said, there you go. I don't need that. That's what I said. I don't need it. He probably thought, oh, great. That's what he would have thought. Judging by how he dealt with the rest of it, he would have thought, oh, great. What a great guy. That's not what I was thinking. I was thinking, don't insult me, Here's your money. And don't ask me again. And kind of thing. But it didn't. It kind of bothered me at the time. But I'm glad that I could have found out. Might have been something even worse. So that was that. So if you're watching, now you know. Now you know. And anyone else contemplating doing things like that, always think about, like, if you're introducing business or any type of money or anything, paid work between friends, make sure make sure it's like, if you want a favour, just ask for a favour. And if you want to pay someone, pay them. But don't have people off, And actually tell them, say, I'm paying you less than the other guy. And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? Why are you saying that? I couldn't believe it at the time, actually. But, like, I couldn't be arsed saying anything. All that was going on through my mind is get out and I'll be on my way. And that'll be it. That'll be it. There'll be no more anything. And maybe you should have said something. Maybe you should have. But at the time, it came as a bit of like, you're dropping someone off and he's got his cases and all. And you can't be asked. I'm not going to like start like big arguments or anything like that. But like, and I might have been unreasonable. But I don't think so. Because I was going to end up with €20 for the whole day. But like it wasn't a business thing. But he'd replace me with the business um, model, which was the other guy. I think it was 140 he wanted. I can't remember. It was either 140 or 160, whichever one. The maximum he would have ended up with was €40, which I think is absolutely fair for a full day. Okay, what do you think? Cheers.